I'm not a lawyer, but here's what went down on day 24 of the Diddy trial, and trust me, it was messy. The day opened with the judge finally ruling on the situation surrounding juror number 6, if you remember. Last week things got complicated when questions came up about where this juror actually lives. During voir dire, he initially claimed he was staying in the Bronx with his fiancée and daughter, but later, when the judge and attorneys followed up, he switched it up and said he had recently moved to New Jersey to live with his girlfriend and daughter. Then, to confuse things even more, he said he also spends 4 to 5 nights a week in the Bronx, this time with his aunt, because of all this back and forth. The judge said he'd take the weekend to decide whether juror number 6 should stay on the case. Then, late Sunday night, Diddy's legal team filed a strong objection. They didn't want the juror removed. They argued that if he was dismissed, it would justify a mistrial, claiming the prosecution was just trying to kick a black male off the jury. But the judge rejected both requests. The juror was removed, and the mistrial was denied. The judge referenced something Diddy's attorney, Xavier Donaldson, said last week. He pointed out how, in over 25 years of practicing in this district, this was the most diverse jury he had ever seen. Donaldson praised the selection process, saying it worked wonderfully, but he also warned that removing juror number 6 would undermine that progress. Basically, it would be a step backward. And here's why that mattered. Juror number 6 was a 41-year-old black man, living either with his fiancée, girlfriend, or aunt, depending on which version you believe, and he had a child. He worked as a clerk at a correctional facility, liked 90s hip-hop, and had previously pled guilty to a misdemeanor fraud charge tied to insurance. His replacement, a 57-year-old white man from Westchester County, married with 2 kids, holding a master's in mechanical engineering, and working as a manufacturing architect. So, you can see why the defense was concerned about the change in jury makeup. On top of that, there was another issue with a separate juror, but the judge said he'd deal with it privately at the end of the day. That conversation is sealed, so the public has no details on it yet. Now on to the witnesses for day 24. There were 2, both were summary witnesses, meaning they are brought in to efficiently present large batches of data. These witnesses are government employees who combed through a mountain of digital evidence, texts, call logs, hotel and flight records, audio files, videos, and images, all tied to the case. The first to testify was Anna Sanka, a paralegal specialist from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Hopefully I'm saying that right. She read out several texts that the prosecution is using to support their RICO charge, basically that Diddy allegedly used his inner circle to commit crimes for the benefit of his enterprise. One text from March 2016 had someone named KK messaging staff, "Make sure the hotel room is stocked with Gatorade, water, and chicken noodle soup." Then she read another text where Diddy and one of his assistants were involved in a text conversation about arranging to get $4,000 in cash delivered to a hotel where Diddy was staying. The government also introduced text messages that dealt with narcotics and Diddy's staff. In one message, Diddy's head of security appears to be getting approval to pay a man named Guido for a large amount of drugs. Another text shows KK asking Diddy what he needs the head of security to grab for him. Diddy replies, 15 pills of Harley. Then the focus shifted to messages involving violence. One message from 2017 was highlighted where Cassie texted KK simply, "WTF?" KK responds, "Are you okay?" Cassie replies, "No, but you should talk to him. No one deserves to be dragged by their hair. I locked the door for my safety." The prosecution also introduced a text involving Diddy's former personal assistant Brendan Paul, the same assistant who was arrested by federal agents the day Diddy's homes were raided. As Diddy and his family were preparing to leave on a trip, Brendan Paul is listed as one of the government's witnesses and is expected to testify soon. In one text, KK texts Brendan, "He might need king stuff, potentially." Brendan responds, "He's just going with the flow." KK replies, "Okay, so he's basically lit." Brendan then texts, "Isn't lit lit?" Later he adds, "PD active now, running to Walmart now." KK texts, "Wild King mode active or Gucci bag active." Brendan answers somewhere in between, if that makes sense. At this point, Diddy's defense attorney, Tenny Garagos, begins her cross-examination, which is fairly brief but focuses on highlighting texts that support the defense's claim that Jane was a willing participant in the situations at the hotel. She references a text from Valentine's Day 2022, where Jane tells Christina Coram, "I'm excited to surprise him." With him referring to Diddy, she also sent Christina a photo of a hotel room decked out with rose petals and balloons. Another message shows KK asking Jane twice to call her because Diddy wanted to make plans. Jane responds, "My answer to him is no and is still no." The defense is using these texts to suggest that Jane made her own decisions and had no problem saying no to Diddy when she wanted to. They also read texts between KK and Diddy from November 2023, around the time Cassie's lawsuit was filed. In one, KK tells Diddy, "If you cannot be honest with me, this doesn't work. We all know what your kryptonite is and where you don't make the best choices." She accuses him of lying to her and says it's starting to affect her deeply. Diddy replies, "Come take my phone," but KK responds that it's not about the phone and tells him if he's beginning to lie to her, it would break her. With that, Anna Sankar is excused from the stand, and the next witness is called. This second witness is a special agent with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and she primarily testifies about travel and hotel records. The government appears to be trying to prove that these trips were for freakoffs and that Diddy used business accounts to pay for them, which supports their RICO charge. The testimony starts with hotel and flight charges from December 2009, tied to Cassie and another entertainer named Jules, all charged to Diddy's American Express card. Then records from October 2012 are shown, including a flight Cassie took from LA to New York on October 10th. The invoice was billed to Bad Boy Entertainment, and prosecutors claim it was for Diddy and Cassie to meet up for another freak. They read a text from October 13th, 2012, where Diddy says, "You ready for tonight?" Cassie replies, "Yes, but need to get something." The government follows up with more messages around the same time where Cassie sent to men the time, location, and reservation details for a hotel meet. Prosecutors also mentioned that freakoff videos were recorded on October 14th, and they produced an invoice for an additional hotel room booked under the alias Frank Black, which they say was for one of the men involved. The witness hasn't completed her full testimony yet. Cross-examination is still pending, and she's expected to return tomorrow. Prosecutors also stated that after this witness they have 3 more left before it's time for the defense to present their case.